But we've got more music coming up. We're going to go back over to the West Coast up in Seattle, where it's probably gotten rained on like we have. John Blackstone is there. How
Hey,
you
hey,
doing, man?
hey. How are you?
Hey, hey, hey. I'm
It's
doing
good
all
to
right. Um, Lava lamp's looking a little better now.
yeah, those things take a while to warm up,
Yeah,
don't they?
yeah, they
Yeah.
do, they do. Which is why
Yeah.
I try to switch them on a while before I'm going to be on, right?
Yeah, I think it's if I remember correctly, you basically need about an hour for them to like get really going
Yeah,
here.
that's about right. That's about
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I
Totally.
used to have those in my room.
Well, yeah,
Along with
well,
incense
how
and
you
candles and all
doing?
kinds of stuff.
I had the incense for a while. I went through a phase for a while with incense.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to associate incense with hippies and stuff like that because that's what I was. But then after I came to know the Lord and walked away from that whole world, I thought, I actually really like incense, and I started burning it again. And I really like it.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with the incense as long as it's
No,
not laced with marijuana or something,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
which which
yeah,
which is probably coming sometime soon.
probably, yeah, in a store near you. Yeah, so I first discovered incense. I was like junior high age, and we had a summer camping trip at Yosemite, and this is right at the peak of the hippie era, and there were so many hippies all wandering around the place.
Yeah.
And it was really fascinating. Got an eyeful. I mean, the hippie guys looked weird. The hippie gals looked really cute, but they were all older than me, so it did me no good. But
Yeah, exactly. It's
yeah,
interesting that
what a time.
that whole movement, the I'm sure you know about the movie that's coming out about Chuck Smith and the Jesus movement that happened when all of those
Yes, yes,
disillusioned hippies came to the Lord. It's a pretty amazing story.
yeah. That was
Yeah.
important. That was an important thing.
It was. It was basically
And
all those people that
we
had realized that the whole peace and love thing of the 60s was actually, and the drugs and all that was a very empty and shallow philosophy, and so they were looking for something
yeah,
more.
it had no underpinnings to support it really, and
Yes,
it wasn't built on the rock,
that's
literally.
right. That's
But
right.
yeah, and we ended up being the recipients of great music because Christian rock sort of came out of that, and
It did, yeah. Randy
totally
Stonehill
cool.
and Larry Norman and Phil Keaggy and all those
Yes,
guys.
yeah, the whole bunch of
Yeah,
them, yeah,
yeah,
totally. Well, it sounds like
definitely.
you've got some music to share with us. You want to dive in? Let's see what.
Yeah, I'll just kind of dive in. This is a song off of my latest album, which is called Survive, and this song is called One Day. I don't recognize this place no more. It's never been this dark before. What's wrong is right, what's right is wrong. We won't last this way for long. One day this world is gonna see the light. One day everything is gonna be alright. Yeah. Everybody's staring at their phones and wondering why they feel alone. So many hearts have turned to stone. I know this world is not my home. One day this world is gonna see the light. One Remember, one day this world is gonna see the light. One day everything is gonna be alright. Sing it with me. One day this world is gonna see the light. Yeah, yeah. One day everything is gonna be alright. Yeah. Something like that.
All right, amen. Very cool. Very cool.
Thanks.
And you know what? One day this world is going to be all right. And right now it's pretty messed up, you think?
It is, and that, that's why I played this song, because everybody who knows the truth of God and knows the Word of God, you can't help but feel the this feeling that's in our culture that things are getting really weird and really
Yeah.
dark. And but the thing is that what's interesting, especially for people my age, is that we were just very blessed and fortunate to grow up in a country that has seen very little of that until very recently. But most of the world, for most of history, has been terribly dark and wicked. And
Yes.
so, really, I want to encourage people that are feeling, so freaked out about what's happening. It's like the mankind has been doing evil and wickedness from the day that Adam and Eve were cast out of the garden, and
Yeah, they
we have
have.
nothing to. What's that?
Oh, they have. Yeah.
Yeah, and just because it's happening, it's weird because it is in our culture, and our Western culture is changing very quickly. But like in Second Timothy, Timothy says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind." And I just want to encourage people: don't allow all of the talk about how things are getting so weird and so dark. Don't let that steal your joy, because God is the victor. Christ is returning, and there's going to be this incredible time that when Christ returns,
Yes.
and in the blinking of an eye, everything that is wrong, everything that is wicked, everything that is unjust and cruel and ugly is going to be essentially burned away in the blinking of an eye. It's going to be all
Yeah.
cast down, and every knee will bow, and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. And that's so awesome. So don't let the weirdness of what's happening in our culture steal the joy from you.
Totally. Yeah. I've kind of come to think that a lot of what happens in human history is kind of cyclic, because it will get
Mm-hmm.
deep depths of evil, and then God will move and bring a reawakening in some way or another.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
and at least some parts of the world will come to a more stable, decent. There's some amount of godliness that has an influence in the culture. Um,
For sure.
and then
Yeah.
when people get too comfortable with peace and prosperity, the corruption comes in again, and they go back and they go into the dip again. So that cycle
You're
up and down and up and down. And it may be that if the Lord tarries, um, that at some point the next generation or two after us is going to say enough is enough, and the Spirit's going to move and reawaken them. Or
Yeah,
Christ might come before then, and
that's right.
but he's going to be sovereign no matter what happens in human history, and we see such a small sliver of it
Amen.
here. And like you
Yeah.
said, it's easy to get discouraged and freaked out, as you say. And um, yeah.
I
So
love
what a roller
everything you're
coaster!
saying. You and I are very much on the same page, and it's really
Yeah,
encouraging for me to hear what you're saying. It's yeah,
yeah,
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
totally. Well, you got another song to share with us here?
I do. I have a ton, but well, I'm only going to do four, but I have a ton. Anyway,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
this is a fun song. This is a song off of my first album that I recorded, um, and this is a
Was
song I wrote with
not for the occasion, that one?
yes, yep, not dressed for the occasion. And
Yes.
I don't know if anyone remembers her, but her name was Margaret Becker, and she had a pretty decent career in Christian music in the '90s. And I had this really interesting experience of when I was in Nashville, the people that I was working with, like music publishers, they would set you up with another writer to see if you guys could write something, together. And I went to her house, and she had just put out this album called Empty House, and much to my shock and surprise, when I went to her house, which was, not an opulent house, but a nice house, there was literally nothing in it except a picnic table for her to sit down and eat at, and not even a nice picnic table, like one that she had
Wow.
found in a.
Wow.
So yeah, she was basically saying, "I'm going to keep my life simple." No material possessions. I'm not saying that that's that people need to live that way, but I was impressed. I thought that, yeah, wow, she's really putting her money where her mouth is. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I went over to her house and we wrote this song. It was kind of a song that was born out of, it's the times in your faith when I think if we are honest with ourselves, there are times in our faith when we just feel dry and kind of don't feel that joy or whatever it is that we love about our relationship with God. Sometimes God allows that to, I think He kind of allows us to lose it a little bit sometimes. I'm speaking for myself, but, because when you have that sense of closeness with God, sometimes there's no requirement. You don't have to exercise any faith because you're just so aware of the presence of God. But I was in one of those periods of time in my life where I hadn't felt the presence of God for a long time. Most important word being felt, and I don't think that feeling is a good way to interpret spiritual
Right.
truth. But
Yes.
it's
Many
it's
many
hard
errors
for us
come
as
down that path. Yes.
yes, yes. So this is a song that we wrote. It's called Revival. It's just kind of like I need revival, and it's a fun song to play with the band. I wish I had the band here with me, but I'll do the best I can. But I do need all of you out in Radio Land to sing Radio Land. How dated that is. So this song has a huge chorus on it. My part is revive. Let's see. Revive. Yeah, revival. That's my part. Revival. And then somebody needs to sing revival. Revival. That was like the ladies in the chorus saying that part.
So
And
you're
I want to dedicate. What's
harmonize
that?
remotely? You're asking us to harmonize remotely then.
Yeah, exactly. And I know I'll hear it in my heart. I'm going to dedicate this
But
to
you heard
Monica.
what the man said. Y'all get
What's
to work.
that?
Well, I was just telling everybody, y'all heard what the man said. Now get to work.
That's right. This is for Monica. I know that Monica's been going through a tough time. She's had to have some very serious surgery lately, and she's a friend of Red's Room. And just please lift up Monica in your prayers. She's had a really difficult recovery from a very serious surgery, and she's facing more struggles now. Just pray the doctors have wisdom as they treat her, and that she's just blessed tonight as she's listening. I know you're listening, Monica. This is for you. Don't need a rope, don't need a chain, don't need to tie myself in knots once again. I don't need a line, I don't need a tent. I just need to know that what I feel is heaven sent. I've got everything at stake, I don't care what it takes. I need revival. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Revival. Again. Revival. Don't need to push. Don't need to fix. Don't need to see the Holy Spirit doing tricks. I don't need a show. I don't need the tears. I just need to know when I cry out that you are near. Well, I don't care how long it takes. I am here and I can wait. I need revival. Here we go again. 1, 2, 3. Revival. Yeah. Revival. Well, I've got dreams that I hold tight, but I would trade them all tonight for you. I need revival. I remember when you set me free, I understood so easily. I could not get to heaven on my own. But I'm standing on my feet. I face this all alone. 2, 3, 4. Well, I've got dreams that I hold tight, but I would trade them all tonight for you. Here we go. Revival. Revival. Oh, yeah. Revival. One more time. Revival. Revival.
And there we go. Awesome.
I was
Yep.
missing my rock band a little bit on that, but
No,
it felt good anyway.
awesome tune by John Blackstone there. And by the way, I got to tell you about as I was listening to that tune and getting into that groove in my head, I'm hearing some blues rock slide guitar could fit in there because
Oh yeah.
that's what I normally do with my band. So if you ever want to make a blues rock adaptation, give me a holler and I'll send. Well,
Did you say slide guitar or did you say
yes,
harp? Oh,
no
you're a
slide
harp player.
guitar.
Oh,
No,
slide
no, no,
guitar. You
slide
I didn't know.
guitar.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That
Open
song. Oh,
E tuning. Open
that's
E.
awesome.
Yeah.
E
So.
tuning for the yeah, that's very cool. I didn't know you played slide. That's a skill and a whole thing in and of itself.
Well, here's the thing. You see, I don't have the motor skills to do the kind of awesome fingering that you and all my other guitar buddies do. So I had to learn something else.
I gotcha.
So
I
that's
get
that's
that.
what I did. So really
Well,
cool.
if it
Now,
makes it, I can't do slide
what's
at all. I've tried several times and I don't have the finesse for it.
mm, well,
Yeah.
it's the motor skills that you need is somehow different. I don't know what's the difference, but you know, I notice other guitarists who are really good at regular standard and they can sort of do real basic slide, but you know, it may just be that they need to spend more time on it, but they've already really good at something else, so they don't really need
Yes.
to, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
right. Now,
Go ahead. There's a little bit of a delay when we're talking to each other, so you go ahead.
I know it gets crazy, but
Yeah.
yeah. So in your bio, you've got a couple of different albums that are listed. How many have you done so far?
I've done just of my own on my own. I've done 3, and the most recent was
Yeah,
released. Yeah, and then I've done 2 albums with a band that I played with. And I've
mm,
yeah. So as far as my own stuff, just the 3. Yeah,
yeah.
and
Now,
there
did you start out playing? Did you start out playing secular and then move into Christian music later? Or?
I did. Yeah, I actually I was my parents started me on guitar when I was a kid, like 5 years old, and I didn't
Yeah.
like it. I just played it because they made me take lessons, and then suddenly I became a teenager and I discovered the Beatles, and I was like, oh wow, I know how to play guitar. How cool is that? And then I discovered music and
Right.
became really excited about music and played with many bands up until I was about 25 years old, and I had a very transformational experience with the Lord in a hotel room with the Gideon's
Wow.
Bible that was in the hotel, and God just grabbed
Yeah.
a hold of my heart. And then so all of the things that I had learned as a secular musician, which were good things, I learned a lot about songwriting and how to structure and how to produce and things like that. And so I just translated that all into writing songs about my faith. Yeah.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was with a secular blues band for a while, but before I got into the Christian blues band that I'm in now. So a lot of people do that. And,
Yes. Yeah,
you
and
know,
I return and play reunion shows with some of my own old bands, and I
yeah.
like
Yeah.
that because they know that I went a different way. I actually left a band as a result of my faith. I said I can't do this anymore because they were, obviously living that whole lifestyle and I didn't want to be around it anymore. But
Yeah.
I was always really cool with them and continued to
Yeah.
love them as people. And yeah, yeah. So
And,
whenever I
and a
get
lot
to
of the music.
interact with them, what I'm sorry, what's that?
I said a lot of the music is wonderful music too.
It is. It is. I have to say, as a songwriter, my chops were all built on listening to Lennon and McCartney and early
Yeah,
Elton John and
totally.
those. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. Those people were
Yeah,
legendary composers and wrote some of the most beautiful compositions in the history of pop music, and some of the musicians are some of the best players. And so I've never had a problem with I it's very common that I'll be driving down the street listening to the Beatles or something. I'm just praising God, but I'm just
yeah,
like, okay, God, they don't know that they're glorifying you, but they are in my heart. What they're doing
yeah.
glorifies you. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, there's a whole philosophical discussion about, that music is, one of the ways that God gave us a little small bit of his creativity, and that's part of how we're made in
yes.
his image.
I
So
very
you
much
got one more
believe
song
that.
to
Yeah,
share?
yeah. I guess I'll
You got one
close
more
with
song
a.
to share?
I do. Yes. I'm going to close with kind of a
Okay.
slower one. This is for. Can you hear the finger picking? Can you hear that? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. This is a song I wrote when I was just feeling weary of life in this world. Sometimes as Christians, think that we can sometimes just get tired of the whole thing. We long to be set free from these broken bodies that we live in and this sinful world that we live in. And I've always loved classic hymns because I find them so poetic and theological in the theology is so rich in the hymns. And I just wanted to write something that kind of addressed this feeling that I was having of just finding my peace in Jesus, the Prince of Peace. And this is called The Shepherd of My Soul. Sorry, I gotta adjust something here really quick because I can't hear it. In the darkness of this hour, no evil will I fear. The shepherd of my soul shall lead, thy hand is always near. Lay me down in thy green pastures, I will rest in thee. For the shepherd of my soul is Christ, the Prince of Peace. God's great mystery, Emmanuel revealed. By thy stripes I am healed. the suffering servant by whom purest love's received. The Lord who satisfies my soul is Christ, the Prince of Peace. Come the day I enter glory, all my tears shall cease. For the shepherd of my soul is Christ, the Prince of Peace. For the shepherd of my soul is Christ, the Prince of Peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Blackstone. Dude, you've done a wonderful job tonight. I am glad that I got to get acquainted with you tonight.
Me too. I enjoyed our little chat. We should try and connect outside of this and talk. I'd love that.
Yeah, I can be found out there. I'm hoping also that you can be found because you need to share with people how they can get in touch with either you or access your music or whatever.
Yeah. So the best way is for you to just go to my website, which is johnblackstone.com, and my name is spelled Jon Blackstone. And it's all just one word, johnblackstone.com. And if you just go to the home page that opens up and just click on the link that says music, and all of my albums are there, including a Christmas album I did, and a lot of all my albums are listed there for you can they're available for digital download, or you can even order them on CD if you like. You can go to any website, Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, whatever. You can buy it everywhere, but the best place in terms of where me as the artist actually gets some reasonable amount of funding for the ministry that I do, it would be if you bought it through my website, but it is available everywhere. And I'm also I have a YouTube channel, and there's links to all of this stuff on my website. I have a YouTube channel, I have a Instagram account, Twitter account, all those things. And so yeah, that's kind of home base. Go to johnblackstone.com and you can connect with me in many different ways. Sign up for my newsletter, and I'll keep you up to date on things I'm doing. And yeah, I love meeting people and connecting with people. So if you could join my mailing list, that would be great.
Very, very cool. So, everybody, I want to remind you what he just said. Um, so these days with streaming services, the business model for independent musicians has totally collapsed in the last 10 years or so,
Yeah.
where somebody spends maybe hundreds of dollars to produce a good quality recording, and then people stream it and he gets, and they get, I don't know what is, like a fraction of a cent for every download or something
Yep.
pathetic and
Yep.
pitiful.
Yep.
He is right. If you order this stuff directly from him, you're going to support him more effectively rather, than, these corporate streaming services taking all the money, and throwing table scraps to the independent musicians. So
Yes.
definitely not only support him, but support him effectively by going direct. And one other thing, you mentioned that you did a Christmas album. So I've been gradually over the years, a little at a time, working on a Christmas blues album. And I have a question for you.
All right.
How many tunes, what number of minutes running time did you get to when you said, okay, this is enough, I'm done. This is a complete album?
That's a great question. I did it with two other guys. It was kind of like almost like a Crosby, Stills and Nash meets Christmas music. And we ended
Yeah,
up
yeah.
doing, yeah. And I think the album comes in at right around 40 minutes. And that
Okay.
and we asked ourselves that question. We actually went and looked at the length of the Christmas albums that are considered kind of the all-time classics. And a lot of them are older, so they're very short. But yeah, I
Yeah,
just
because
kind of
they were
felt
on.
like, well, remember when we used to record our vinyl albums onto a cassette tape? It was like you could get
Right.
A and B side on one side of a tape, which was like 45 minutes, and that's
Yeah, a
kind of how we
90-minute
looked at
tape.
it. It's like, yeah, yep, exactly. So we kind of thought this should fit on like one. It should be a nice, neat little package, somewhere between 40 minutes and 45 minutes. That's how we thought.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. All righty. So, folks, get in touch with John Blackstone. Thank you so much for coming out. And I will say again, it was great to get acquainted with you and talk about cool stuff.
Yes.
Um,
Likewise.
everybody, show your love, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Red's Room.